Ever had a sex dream so intense, so bizarre, or so downright confusing that you woke up not knowing what to think? Maybe you dreamed about someone completely unexpected, an ex you swore you'd forgotten, a coworker you barely know, or even someone you'd never imagine yourself with in your waking life. And then the doubt consumes you. What does this mean? Does this dream reveal some hidden desire? Is there something wrong with me? Relax. According to Freud, the answer isn't that simple, but it's also not as obvious as you might think. Brace yourself for a journey into the deepest, darkest corners of your mind, because what lies behind your sexual dreams might completely change how you see yourself. Freud believed that dreams are the disguised fulfillment of repressed desires. This means that not everything you dream should be taken literally. Far from it. Dreaming about sex doesn't necessarily mean you desire the person in the dream. In fact, it might have nothing to do with them at all. And that's exactly what makes sexual dreams so fascinating and mysterious. When you dream about someone in a sexual context, your unconscious is using that image as a symbol, a stand-in for something you deeply want, need, or fear, but that your conscious mind can't or won't admit. Imagine your mind as a theater. On stage is the dream itself. You and that person, in that bizarre scenario, living out that erotic moment. But behind the curtain, hidden from view, is the real script. And it's written with old traumas, childhood memories, unresolved frustrations, and desires you've repressed because you believed they were wrong or unacceptable. Freud showed us that sexual dreams are a symbolic language. They don't speak directly. They hint, insinuate, hide things to protect you. And that's why interpreting them takes courage. Courage to look inward and accept that not everything inside us is conscious, logical, or controllable. Let's think about this together. What if that sexual dream with a stranger isn't about lust at all, but rather about your longing for freedom, for breaking rules, for allowing yourself to be who you truly are without fear of judgment? What if dreaming about an ex is actually an expression of your struggle to close old chapters? And what if that dream about someone inappropriate, like your boss, a teacher, or a friend in a relationship, isn't about wanting them, but about what they represent? Power, knowledge, security, or even the allure of what's forbidden. Freud said the unconscious is timeless. It mixes childhood memories with recent experiences and treats them all with the same emotional weight. That's why so many of our sexual dreams carry the energy of misunderstood childhood experiences. It's not uncommon to dream about authority figures, parents, teachers, bosses. That doesn't mean you have sexual feelings for them. Far from it. What the unconscious is doing is using these figures as symbols for something bigger. The need for approval, the desire to be cared for, the tension between obedience and rebellion. Is this uncomfortable to think about? Absolutely. But it's also liberating. Because once you understand that your sexual dreams are metaphors, you stop blaming yourself for them. You stop feeling ashamed of what your mind conjures up at night and start listening to it more carefully. What is my unconscious trying to tell me? What part of me is being suffocated? What emotional need am I ignoring in my waking life? That's the real power of psychoanalysis, turning guilt into understanding, shame into curiosity, repression into self-awareness. You might be wondering, but what if the dream is about someone I'm actually attracted to in real life? Is it still symbolic? Yes, but with extra layers. The unconscious might use real desire as a starting point, but the way it plays out in the dream reveals much more. It's the setting, the emotions, the feeling you have when you wake up that tells the real story. A sexual dream about someone you love might bring up fears of rejection, the longing for total intimacy, or the anxiety of losing control. Nothing is simple in dreams, and that's exactly what makes them so rich. Now, let's talk about the really uncomfortable stuff. Taboo sexual dreams. Yes, Freud didn't shy away from these. Dreams about incest, violence, submission, cheating, no matter how disturbing, they're also part of the unconscious's repertoire. And here's the crucial thing to understand. Dreaming about something doesn't mean you want it. The unconscious uses extreme imagery because it's emotionally powerful. These shocking images carry the symbolic weight needed to represent intense, often repressed emotions, like anger, insecurity, the need to be seen, or the fear of abandonment. Once you grasp this, you don't have to be afraid of your dreams anymore. You can welcome them as part of a healing and self-discovery process. Freud also observed that sexual dreams often come with elements of anxiety and guilt. That's because, from an early age, we're taught to associate sexuality with prohibition, shame, and sin. So even when the desire itself is natural, it might appear in dreams with an undercurrent of discomfort, as if something about it feels wrong. This doesn't reflect the desire itself, but rather how we've been conditioned to feel about it. And that's why dream interpretation is so important. It helps us separate what's truly ours from what's been imposed on us by a society that fears pleasure, the body, and raw instinct. Often, sexual dreams emerge as escape valves. They show up when we're under pressure, when we feel trapped in roles we didn't choose, when our daily lives feel emotionally dry or disconnected. The dream then becomes a cry for intensity, for surrender, for life pulsing in its rawest form. It's the unconscious saying, "Hey, you're alive, remember?" And that's beautiful. It's as if, amid the routine, the bills, the obligations, your deepest self comes to remind you that there's more, that inside you, there's still fire, still desire, still a hunger to be touched, physically and emotionally. Another fascinating thing about sexual dreams is that they don't play by the rules of right and wrong, possible and impossible. They mix genders, break taboos, ignore social norms, and that's precisely why they're such a valuable window into the soul. They show you what you hide from yourself. They reveal what you don't dare think about in daylight. They point to the places where you still need to break free. Freud famously said that every dream is the fulfillment of a wish, but he also knew that these wishes aren't always conscious. Sometimes, what we desire isn't the act itself, but what it represents: to be wanted, to be seen, to matter, to be free. When your unconscious constructs a sexual dream, what it's really trying to do is show you something you need to feel, something you may have been denying for a long time. Desire isn't just physical. Desire is the language of the soul. And dreams? They're the poetry that soul uses to speak. So what do you do with all this? The answer isn't simple, but it starts with a shift in attitude. Instead of running from your dreams, observe them. Instead of judging them, listen to them. Instead of feeling ashamed, get curious. Write your dreams down. Reflect on what they stir up in you. What emotions surface? What memories do they trigger? And most importantly, what hidden desires are waiting to be heard? Above all, remember this: your sexual dreams aren't deviations. They're maps. Maps to the parts of you that have been forgotten, denied, silenced. And when you decode them, you don't just get closer to your desires, you get closer to your deepest truth. The one that pulses beneath the masks, the obligations, the fears, the one that wants to live, to feel, to be whole. In the end, Freud teaches us that interpreting a dream isn't just about figuring out what it means. It's an act of courage. Courage to face your shadow. Courage to admit there's more to you than what you show the world. Courage to drop the judgment and embrace the mystery within. And who knows? Along the way, you might realize that your sexual dreams were never about the other person at all. They were about you, about the part of you that's still waiting to wake up.